Okay, Craig, you have a problem with the backspace binding on the housing. When it goes down, because it's binding against this housing, it's sticking. And the way to correct that is we have to move the housing, this housing, over one way or the other to make sure that there is an even space all the way around the key and all the other keys. The way to do this, first of all, you need a screwdriver, fairly good sized screwdriver, a smaller screwdriver with a thin blade, and preferably a rubber mallet. Okay, first step would be to turn the machine up on its back and loosen the 4 screws that hold the feet on. They also hold this housing on the top on, as well as the base. So by loosening these 4 screws, only a few turns, just enough so that they're loose. Don't take about any further than you have to. Take them from all the way in, maybe out 1, 2, maybe 3 turns each. I've done that to all 4 of these feet. There are also 2 other screws that hold the housing, and those are located, they're hard to see. They're underneath the keys here. I don't know if we can see this on the camera, but underneath, and you take the fine bladed screwdriver and back these 2 screws out, probably 2 or 3 turns, one there and one here. And I've done that already on this machine. After you've done that, to move the case one way or the other, you simply take a rubber mallet and hit the base, not the top part, the base. Just tap on it gently and it will shift the whole housing one way or the other. If you go too far, it'll start binding on the other side. If you go too little, it'll still keep binding. The ideal is to get all the keys evenly spaced in their holes so none of them bind. Once you've done that, knock the case one way or the other, gently, just enough to see the hole moving. I've got mine over too far to the left now, so it's binding. You can see that. That's what's happening with yours. So I'm going to go the other way a bit to get it back in the center. Now no bind. Once you've done that, tighten these 2 screws down here below the top row of keys. Tighten those back up. Not real tight. Just tight enough where you feel a little bit of resistance. We'll do both of those. The same amount of turns you took to turn them out. There usually are some grommets on them that deteriorate. Sometimes the grommets are gone. But the whole idea is to hold the case one way or the other. So once you've got those done, come back here, tighten the 4 screws that hold these feet on, tighten them until they stop all the way. 1, 2, 3, tighten those all up. And sometimes when you tighten these up, it will still bind, so then you have to repeat the process. But once you get them tightened, you should be free. Sometimes they squeak because they're hitting the edge a little bit. Common problem. Sometimes you move the case a little frontwards or backwards to make sure the holes are all of them. Sometimes you'll move one to where it's working and the other, some other key will bind. So it's a happy medium. You got to get them perfectly centered and perfectly centered back and forth and side to side. Shouldn't require a lot of banging. You can watch the hole on the key and keep trying it as you're hitting it with the mallet. And once you find a spot that it's not binding anymore, this one seems to be rubbing a little bit on the side now, so I might have moved it a little too far. It's a little bit binding on this edge, but it's still working. This is a common problem with Hermes. Why they did this, I don't know. The last model they made, they took this plate out completely. It's all open, so no keys ever bind, but that's a little idiosyncrasy with the machine. It should be able to correct it doing that. So hopefully that'll help.